We'll be right back.
Let the guy run the practice and leave the building, have a press conference, and then you fire him on a cell phone call while he's in the car. Shame on you, Sacramento. You haven't been good since Chris Webber, White Chocolate, Vlade Divac, Corliss Big Nasty Williamson, and obviously Rick Alleman as a coach. No one wonder why you've been a joke for the last quarter century.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Pop one of those gold coins in there. Oh, baby!
Welcome back into Sports Millions here on the grid. I'm Joe Madden, joined by Tom Vecchio. Tom, we got a great show today. We're going to kick it off with the matchup here between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos playing for so much, but the Kansas City Chiefs, not so much. Are we going to see any of their starters out there, Tom?
That's a good question. Like you said, Broncos, they win, they take care of business, and they are in the playoffs. It's really that simple for them, and I think that's how we can approach things when it comes to looking at certain players. For the Chiefs, they're not expected to have too many offensive starters playing at this point. It's all but certain that Mahomes won't be playing, Travis Kelce won't be playing, Isaiah Pacheco won't be playing, and we should be seeing Carson Wentz get the start at quarterback. Also, one of their top corners, Trent McDuffie, won't be playing. George Karlaftis, not expected to play. So we're dealing with a lack of information overall on the Chiefs side of things, and it should be pretty straightforward from the Broncos. They're at home, win the game, and you're in the playoffs. I think that's what they should just be doing, taking care of business and making the playoffs.
And it sounds easy, but Tom, is it really that easy? Andy Reid versus Sean Payton. Does Andy Reid still want to play that upset role here for the Denver Broncos? We saw a couple of seasons ago, the Chargers and the Raiders, same divisional kind of rivalry there, where all they had to do was go into OT, and both of those teams would have made it. Are we going to see something like that here? Because Carson Wentz is going to want to step up. He's going to want to prove himself. So what are you thinking between these two?
Yeah, like you said, Carson Wentz, and it's not just Carson Wentz. There's a number of quarterbacks around the league that, we can get into discussing where a veteran quarterback, they want to go out there and put up a good performance because we've seen so many of these backups, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, et cetera, they, are backups and then they turn into starters at another team down the road. And we've seen Wentz as a starter. Obviously, he, his stats and whatever declined as the years went on after, the injuries, but him putting up a good performance and then going to another team in the offseason is that's a route for a lot of these players. So I expect them to put a full effort. And it's also important to note, I was, talking about this with one of my friends yesterday. It's at a certain point, teams are only allowed to have so many inactives. They can't have everyone inactive. So there will be some starters out there on the defensive side of things. So they're not going to just give up against the Broncos. And like I said, it's a divisional matchup. They still want to give them a tough time.
They absolutely do. Okay, let's look at the playmakers that we know are going to give it 100%. We know the Denver Broncos will be out here to get the win. And I have to look at Bo Nix to be able to come out nice and strong here, Tom. Bo Nix has been great for the Denver Broncos. I didn't expect it out of him this season, but Sean Payton definitely has his quarterback of the future. We're looking at Bo Nix. Couple different ways we can take it. Those passing touchdowns higher than 1.5 is an option. The rushing yards higher than 17 and a half is an option, and then his passing yards 217 and a half. We know the Chiefs secondary has been banged up. You got to think some of these players on that secondary will be resting as well. So you will have players looking to step up and make a big impact here for the Chiefs, but I don't think it will be enough to limit Bo Nix in those passing yards. I love him higher than 217 and a half, Tom.
I do. And when it comes to Broncos overall, I think there's like a very clear hierarchy, or whatever you want to call it, tiers of what we see from their offense. As we were discussing a little bit ago, like their rushing game has been largely non-existent this year. It's not Javonte Williams, sometimes it's Javonte Williams, sometimes it's Audric Estime, sometimes it's Julian McLaughlin. We just don't have any consistency. It's his running back by committee. So let's just trust Bo Nix. So when we're looking at these players, it's like Bo Nix is the clear number one option who I want to be trusting. Then we can decide between Cortland Sutton or Marvin Mims. But then when we're actually looking at Bo Nix, choices, is it going to be yards or touchdowns? I think they're kind of tied. So, and I certainly think the yards is fine. I think that's the spot that I want to go. But it's important to note he has 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, and 2 passing touchdowns in the second half of the season. Like he's getting to at least 2 passing touchdowns in nearly all of these recent games. I prefer the yards, but I think the touchdowns are totally fine.
Yeah, I love the touchdowns here. I actually think you could probably look at all of Bo Nix's numbers to the higher, Tom. He's just been so surprisingly strong for this team, and I think he has an absolutely big day out there. So I love him over or higher than the 217 and a half passing yards, the higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns, and the higher than 17 and a half rushing yards. But if I had to lock in one, it would be those passing yards. And I do think he makes that connection with Cortland Sutton out there. Cortland Sutton has a number of 63 and a half receiving yards. We know how strong he has been. He's been strong in that red zone and could get those receiving touchdowns as well. Do you like his number higher than 63 and a half receiving?
I absolutely do. Cortland Sutton, I've said before, I'm a big fan of Cortland Sutton. I just love the role that he plays in the offense. Again, the Chiefs may not have all their starters out there. Cortland Sutton is their best option on offense to get the ball to, again, come away with the win, just like, let's just take things as straightforward as possible. However, that's not my favorite option from the Broncos this particular week. It's actually going to be Marvin Mims, higher than 28 and a half receiving yards. We obviously saw a massive performance from him last week, up at 103 yards against the Bengals with the 2 TDs. But prior to that, it was 62 yards against the Chargers, 20 versus Indy, which is certainly low, but 105, 44, and 49. He's been hitting the higher on this at a pretty consistent rate. And I would simply just take the lower line between the two. I still think Cortland Sutton's a better player overall, but that number is just a little bit higher. I will certainly take it with Marvin Mims, who we've seen break off these long receptions.
Well, especially if the Chiefs defense looks to limit Cortland Sutton out there, because we know how strong he is if he's able to get free in that back in the field. So Marvin Mims, receiving yards higher than 28 and a half. I'm all in for that. What about the kicking points here for Lutz? I just don't know. 7.5. I do think there'll be some field goals in this game, but I think the majority of those conversions in the red zone are touchdowns here for the Denver Broncos. So I don't want to touch those kicking points. Would you look at it at all?
No. If there's any play, it's the lower, because again, we have to take into context what this game means. This is a must-win game for the Broncos. Like, they would need the Bengals to lose, the Dolphins to lose or tie. Like, you don't want to be relying on those other things to happen. So if they're in that spot where it's like, it's 4th and 5, they're at like the 35. It's like, no, you need to go for the win. Like, you need to score touchdowns. You can't be settling for field goals. So there's a scenario where Will Lutz has 6 kicking points, right? Like three with the extra points and then 1 field goal, because like they literally need to push for touchdowns. So there's no play on Will Lutz. You either stay away or you take the lower.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Is there any other players that you want to look at here for the Denver Broncos that you could see coming in higher or lower? No one that I really want to play to the lower in this matchup for Denver, because you look at Denver so much on the line that I just don't want to go against those. But I'm not sure if there's anyone else that I really want to take to the higher either. We've got Williams, his receiving yards coming in at 13.5 seems slightly low. If he can get open, he could go over that in one out there, Tom.
Yeah, like you said, because of the must-win scenario for Denver, it obviously puts things in a certain spot where they'll be pulling out all the tricks out of the bag. They'll be pushing forward on fourth down. But when I said at the top, I was like, when it comes to the Broncos, it's like a very clear tiered order. It's like Bo Nix is at the top, then it's Mims and Sutton, whichever order then you want, and then it's kind of everyone else. I don't want to be trusting Jaleel McLaughlin or Vele or Williams, players that have just been largely inconsistent. So they all fall in that third tier for me. And sure, you could play Vele over 17.5 receiving, higher than 17.5 receiving yards, just because he is a big body downfield threat for the Broncos. But Mims and Sutton are just better options at the end of the day. So I want to lock in Mims. I think that is totally fine to go to.
Yeah, I think there is lots of great options here for the Denver Broncos. Like we've talked about the whole segment here, there's so many things to play for here for the Denver Broncos. These players need to come out nice and strong. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I do put the weight of this game on Bo Nix. So I will be locking in Bo Nix higher than 217.5 passing yards. But I think any of his picks here are a strong way to go, Tom.
Yeah, yards or the touchdowns. Again, yards always a little bit safer than touchdowns. And I'm certainly looking at Marvin Mims as the next option.
Okay, you guys, we're coming up against a break here, but don't go anywhere. When we get back, we'll be breaking down the matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets here on Sports Millions on the Grid.
There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you got to love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Pop one of those gold coins.
We're back here on Sports Millions on the Grid. I'm Joe Madden. I'm joined by Tom Vecchio. We're going to get into the matchup between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. But first, enjoy Sports Millions Pick'em but hate making picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em. Okay, Tom, let's jump in to this matchup here. The Miami Dolphins need some help. They need this win here over the New York Jets for hopes to make the playoffs.
Yeah, like you said, this is a spot where the Dolphins need to win. They also need other things to fall their way, but they have to start by taking care of business in their own right, going up against the inferior Jets lineup who has all but quit over the past few weeks. It's important to note that there's no final confirmation on whether or not Tua Tagovailoa will be starting for the Dolphins. He obviously did not play last week when they were at Cleveland. We saw Snoop Huntley get the start for the Dolphins. That could certainly be in play. So as of now, it's a limited selection when it comes to Dolphins players. Also important to note that Jalen Waddle didn't play for the second straight game. Will he be back? Also another question we are waiting on the answer to. So I want to trust the Dolphins and just, again, taking care of business. The Jets side of things is really interesting because there was a report earlier that for the Jets that Aaron Rodgers is aware of the fact that this could be his last NFL game ever. Not just last NFL game with the Jets, but last NFL game ever. Something we could certainly fold into the mix here.
Oh, definitely something to fold into the mix. You've got to think Aaron Rodgers, with what has happened on this season with the Jets, the disappointing year that he's had, he's going to want to go out with a bang. But from what we've seen all season, Tom, is it really possible for Aaron Rodgers to have that big day? It could be. If Tua doesn't hit the field out here for Miami, I do think Huntley will have those struggles in Miami, even though this is a must-win game. Could fall flat in this one. What are your thoughts on Miami without Tua?
It's certainly tough. It really is. We saw some good stuff from Miami last week. I think we need to take that with a grain of salt, considering they were playing the Browns. Let's just call it what it is. The Browns scored 3 points last week. It wasn't like a game where the Dolphins had to stress too much, coming with that 20-3 win. So the Jets defense is better than the Browns. The Jets defense may not be amazing or as elite as we thought they were, but they are better than the Browns. So looking to Devon Achane just to keep it really simple with the Dolphins when we're dealing with these question marks, I think is easy. And then with the Jets, they have really good players. Breece Hall, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson. These players are awesome. We just don't know what we're getting from their offense on a week in and week out basis.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking out here to see Rodgers and what has happened to this team this season. We expected so much more out of their defense as well, Tom. So the narrative there for Aaron Rodgers in what could possibly be his last NFL game ever is there. His passing yards coming in at 219.5. Would you be willing with that narrative to take it higher than that? Do you think he can pick apart the secondary here of Miami and get that ball moving nice and deep?
I would like to think so. Narrative or not, 219.5 passing is a pretty low mark in today's NFL. Any quarterback should be able to get there. A starter, a backup, early in the season, late in the season, whatever it might be, healthy, injured. 219.5 is a low line. So I would be willing to trust Rodgers higher than 219.5. Now, we can have different conversations about Garrett Wilson versus Devontae Adams. Who do we trust more? Who does Rodgers trust more? Whatever it might be. I think Rodgers would probably be, I don't want to say safe, because we've seen some dud games for him, as we saw last week in Buffalo where they scored 0 points or whatever. But Rodgers, I want to believe that's the right answer to this week.
I want to believe it as well, especially in the cold weather in New York. You've got to think that this offense will have the upper hand on the defense of Miami, which we know the Miami Dolphins have struggled in cold weather, especially Tua, though. So we'll see if he's out there on the field. I love where you went with Achane. I think Achane does come out nice and strong in this one. 49.5 rushing yards seems a little light, so I'd be willing to take that to the higher. What about Devontae Adams here for the Jets? We know that connection with Aaron Rodgers was there at one point. We've seen a couple of nice passes to him on the season, but just wasn't the step up that we were hoping out of the Jets offensively, bringing him over here. He has a receiving yard pick of 66.5, and then 5.5 is his receptions. I actually am looking for him to go higher than 5.5 receptions, Tom.
I would too. Prior to last week's game versus the Bills, there was a quote that came out from Devontae Adams because Aaron Rodgers is one touchdown away from 500 in his career, and Adams said that he would like to be the one to catch that from Rodgers, obviously with their connection in Green Bay, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the reception is totally fine for Adams. Later in the week, if we see the receiving touchdown for Adams pop up, that's interesting because we wouldn't have to go to Rodgers for the yards, which we may be uncertain on because he's just been up and down this year. So the Adams touchdown, if that were to be posted, that would actually be my favorite.
Yeah, definitely a great way to look. We could also look at Bryce Hall here for the Jets coming in for his receiving yards of 20.5, his rushing yards of 51.5, and then his rushing and receiving 75.5. I think that's a solid way to look at Bryce Hall. I love the combo there, higher than 75.5. Anything for Bryce Hall for you?
Probably not. I think for me, again, like we can look at these teams in terms of just like the tiers that I prefer them. Adams is shaping up to be number one, then Rodgers, then Hall. Like Wilson, we haven't spoken about Garrett Wilson, and he's awesome, but I just don't know where he fits in this kind of thing. So I'm looking to lock in. Let's go with Devontae Adams higher than 5.5 receptions, and then Devon Achane higher than 49.5 rushing yards. The Dolphins just got to take care of business and come away with the win.
Tom, we're on the exact same page with both of those. I love Achane to come out nice and strong. His rushing yards higher than 49.5. I'll lock in as well. And then Devontae Adams, I love those receptions. I think Aaron Rodgers definitely will be targeting him in this game, and he can get at least 6 receptions out there on the board. So I'll lock in the higher than 5.5 receptions. But you guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to come back and we're going to look at the matchup here for the Giants. So it's going to be an interesting one to break down. Tom, we'll be back in the next couple minutes here on Sports Millions on the Grid.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes, the ankle. Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights. 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Pop one of those gold coins.
Welcome back into Sports Millions here on the Grid. I'm Joe Madden, joined by Tom Vecchio. Tom, we're going to get into this matchup here between the Giants and the Eagles.
Yeah, Giants, Eagles, obviously varying degrees of incentive for both teams. But before we hop into that, check out the Sports Millions Social Casino featuring classics, slots, and brand new game concepts. The Social Casino features the opportunity to win large sweepstake coins, and the games are always free to enter. Go play now at sportsmillions.com/social-casino. That's sportsmillions.com/social-casino. Giants, Eagles, not much on the line for this game. We know that the Eagles are locked into their spot. The Giants are coming off a crazy win last week over the Indianapolis Colts. And the Giants, are they vying for draft seeding? Are they vying for, continue to get rookie records for Malik Neighbors? We don't know what we're getting from this game.
Yeah, we really don't. And you would expect the fans are wanting the Giants to lose for draft reasons, but that's very hard to tell those players out there, Tom, to take the L. They don't want to. They are playing for their careers out there. And I think Malik Neighbors is a great way to start looking here with the Giants. When we look at him here, his receiving yard pick is coming in at 66.5. It's going to come down to if Drew Lock can get that ball to him and not turn it over. We have seen those interceptions thrown by him, but I do think in this one we should see so much effort out of Drew Lock and Malik Neighbors that I'd be willing to look at Malik Neighbors here higher than 66.5 receiving yards. What are your thoughts on him?
That has to be it. I would love to see Malik Neighbors receptions if that gets posted later in the week, as we're still dealing with a little bit of lack of information, but Neighbors 66.5 would be, I think, number one. Again, we can look at like these in terms of tiers. Tyrone Tracy has been legitimately great for the Giants this season. 15.5 receiving yards, 49.5 rushing yards, 68.5 receiving plus rushing. I think really all of those are on the table. Now, it's important to note for the Eagles side of things, we already know that Jalen Hurts didn't play last week and Kenny Pickett got the start last week. Kenny Pickett then got hurt last week, and Tanner McKee, their third-string quarterback, came in, not expecting Saquon to start, not expecting A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith, et cetera, et cetera. So, we're only seeing Jake Elliott numbers listed right now. I think Neighbors, Tracy are the clear spots to go. Is there anything outside of that you would like to go to? Like Drew Lock is okay when it comes down to it.
Yeah. Yeah, Drew Lock is okay when it comes down to it. And I do like these quarterbacks to come out nice and strong in these games. I think they have something to prove, Tom. And I do think here, the secondary of the Eagles, in some of these games this season, they have been picked apart. So even though they've been playing stronger as of late, depending on which players end up resting on the defensive side for the Eagles, I think Drew Lock can go higher than that number of 189.5. Yes, he throws those interceptions. Sometimes it's not pretty for him, but this number just seems way too low. I expect him to hit closer to 200 passing yards in this, so I definitely will take him higher than 189.5. Now, do I like that more than Malik Neighbors? Probably not, because I do think Malik Neighbors is the stronger player to play taking one of these picks here, but I do think Drew Lock comes into play as well, Tom.
Yeah, that's what we've talked about on various different players, like the Drew Lock number. And again, Drew Lock is kind of like, Carson Wentz, former starter. He's out there, wants to put up some good performance at the end of the season. He had one of last week versus the Colts. Like, he should be able to get to that number. But do we like him better than Neighbors? The answer is no. We want to trust Neighbors. I would certainly trust Tyrone Tracy ahead of Drew Lock. So the Drew Lock number is fine, but it's just like falling behind the other two when it comes down to it. Now, Jake Elliott's the only one listed here for the Eagles. Higher than 1.5 field goals made, I think, is the answer. Right? I don't want to go to kicking points. I think the field goals would be the answer because, again, if it's not Kenny Pickett, they're going to have a third-string quarterback in there. They move the ball down the field. They pick up a couple of field goals. They don't have to push for a touch. And, again, they are locked into the seeding that they are in the NFC. Jake Elliott higher than 1.5 field goals. Malik Neighbors on the other side.
I love where you're going. We're on exactly the same page with this, Tom. I do think Jake Elliott has a strong day. Ultimately, at the end of the day, do the Giants play upset, in your opinion?
I'm going to say no. Like, the Giants came away with a big win last week, but the Giants, they shouldn't be winning. They shouldn't be winning. Draft position is huge for, especially at the team where they are at the crossroads, getting rid of Daniel Jones, quarterback issues, et cetera, maybe a new coach, new GM. Losing, I think, is more important at this point.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely is. Tell the players that, though. Malik Neighbors, I will lock in higher than 66.5 receiving yards, and then give me Jake Elliott higher than 1.5 field goals. But Tom, that's the show. Thanks so much for a great show today, you guys. We will be back here on Sports Millions on the Grid tomorrow. So make sure you
pop one of those gold coins.